I'm Mimosa Mack, and
My name is Amanda Slam.
we've been working with Sprig Woodwork since about 2011, 2012, probably around 2015, 16. We got a little bit more serious about it. Here we do utensils, wooden utensils, pizza peels, spoons.
We got into woodworking because our dad was a fine woodworker and we were around it all the time. When he passed, we started doing some projects in here just sort of as a way of being close to him. I think we got into building utensils in part because we made some cutting boards, and then I had built a wood-fired bread oven, and so we made peels for that, and it evolved from there.
So the process for creating some of our utensils starts with a piece of wood, and we end up resawing it to make some thin wood. We have templates. We trace these out and we cut them out on the bandsaw. We sand them and we sand them again, and then we sand them on the power machines. We wet them down to raise the grain, sand that off, and then we oil sand them to make them very smooth. So for a spoon, it may take 3 hours to do, and those are more one-offs than these production work.
We had been making a lot of these items, and at some point we talked about making spoons, and one day a friend of our father's, who's been kind of a mentor to us, came over with a 5-gallon bucket full of tools and said, "I'm going to show you how to make spoons." And so he did that, and at that point we were busy with other projects, but sort of a couple weeks later we had time and we dived into making spoons. So they're more individual, they're not production. They're less logical to make, but they're satisfying to make.
So in making the spoons, I think they sort of start with a little bit of a plan, and we drift away from the plan as we make the spoon. So we may draw out the spoon bowl itself, carve out the bowl part of the spoon, and then once we move to rasping and shaping the handle, it becomes what feels comfortable. It's not really planned out ahead of time. The pizza peels we make by sawing out many different strips of wood. They have different colors, figures, etc. And we sort of lay them out, and we lay out a whole bunch of them by whatever attracts us. I tend to be more balanced, and she seems to be a little more unbalanced, so mine are more even on both sides, whereas hers are more a variety.
And it's partly responding to the grain and the combinations of wood. We really like black walnut in the peels, which is the darkest wood, and we like that contrast. So whenever we run out of it, we notice it.
Sometimes our favorite things to do are spoons, because we're low on spoons. It's a little more relaxing. We can focus. Sometimes when we don't want to think so much, we do a lot of sanding.
Our favorite things to do are often whatever project we just finished. Like, so when we do a series of peels, we're excited about them. So it's satisfying to get a body of work done. Does that make sense?
One of our favorite things to do is toaster tongs, which are little tiny pieces of wood glued together with a centerpiece, and they have a variety of colors, and we can mix and match, and they go together very quickly, and they come out really nice.
And they're a way to use ever smaller scraps of wood that we can't bear to toss in the fire. I think sometimes there'll be an odd piece of wood lying around, and one day you'll figure out how to use it for a spoon. I think that's probably, for one-off things, that's probably the primary use. The toaster tongs use up a lot of scraps.
And chopsticks. Chopsticks use up scraps as well. I enjoy making the wood and working with the wood. There is the connection with my father. There is the connection to our family and just being creative. But I also really enjoy when somebody buys something and they really enjoy it. And it's sort of something a little bit nicer to have than your ordinary spreader or spoon or peel or knife. And I enjoy that people are enjoying that.
I find it really satisfying to sort of go from a rough piece of wood to a finished object. And a lot of our wood is air dried, so when you look at it in the rough, it's gray and dirty and splintery, and so it's really hard to imagine it becoming this, so I really like that process. One thing, my dad was a fine woodworker, and one thing that used to always amaze me is he would spend hours and hours and hours making a jig that would let him do like something that took 5 minutes. Um, and now that I do more woodworking, even though it's on a much simpler scale, it is amazing that you spend a lot of time setting something up to that will let you like hold two pieces of wood together just right while you're gluing it, or I mean, there's small things that are necessary. The Open Studio Tour was started like 10 years ago by WesArts and Arts Council. A few years ago, we got involved in it, and I've really enjoyed sort of both working with the artists to make it happen and having people from a variety of backgrounds stop by and look at our work.
I'm Abby Sean, and I paint, but I also make these uh, worlds and other kind of sort of sculpture, I guess. So I've done, I've been an artist for a long time, so I've done a lot of things over the years. Sometimes I think about it's almost like a muse, like something really gets you. What I'm, if you're interested in something that's outside of yourself and care about something outside of yourself, it seems to me that for me, I like how the art turns out better than if it's just inside myself. So I was concerned about the world, and I sort of one of the things I've done too is like organize shows with a lot of different artists in them, right? And so at one point in Skowhegan, actually, we just got a bunch of artists to make globes, and we put them in the windows downtown. Right now, I just discovered this great. I love my materials too. I just discovered this great paint that rusts, and I'm kind of in love with it. So I got a couple of rusty worlds that I just made. Those are the newest worlds. This picture I started because I really love to make big pictures. I thought, maybe some people write haikus and some people write novels. I like pictures with a lot of different things going on, and I like doing that a lot. And just you know, getting all the parts kind of working with each other and moving from one to the other smoothly and so on. And I started doing it, but it's surprisingly pretty compared to most of my pictures, frankly. Um, and so I've just been following it and seeing where it's leading me. But I think I wanted to see some kind of stronger color, so then I thought I'd make a red one and go right around the corner, another vertical. But I made this piece of paper too long, I put the red on, and then I kind of liked it, so I just made it horizontal. It might go above there eventually if I ever find a venue to show these in. But so I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by political events. I got to go into a Chinese bookstore, and and the guy was I really loved the guy that ran it. Like one day I went and I bought some paper or something he had there, and I paid him with a check, and he really liked my signature. He said. So, because they like the calligraphy, the Chinese like the calligraphy, right? So he thought it was a nice calligraphic signature. So we became friends. I used to go in there. So he taught me a lot about Chinese art, for instance, and um, he became kind of a teacher for me, right? And one day I went into his shop. Dr. Wu was his name, and he was like, writing correspondence with Chou and Lai. I don't know who he was or anything beyond that. But one day he wasn't there, and no one ever spoke English, so I never found out what became of him. But anyway, they had these kind of accordion pleated books, and so I got to making them, and I've been making these all my life pretty much. So the thing with these books is that they fold out, and you could go to the next page, but it's not separate pages. It's all an accordion. It's all one long piece of paper. So this one, because I got interested in these ghosts, um, this is a book sort of full of ghosts. um, Actually, we were doing this. And I think I got interested in another thing that really interests me is in the Kennebec there's a rock where there are petroglyphs. Did you ever go there? The old Indian petroglyphs, right? And I kind of got interested in how maybe because I had to chip with stone in the stone, how much you could say with how few lines, and so that became kind of an interesting question for me always, right? And maybe sort of being somewhere on the borderline between figurative and abstract is somehow interesting to me. So I think I did this one and I got inspired to do the book. So here's that one. And there's another ghost actually. And I had done a pile of these ghosts. One winter I was just upstairs and I found like with 3 brush strokes, again, I would make these figures, right? But every one seemed to have a gesture or be singular to me. So I had a pile of them. One winter I just was upstairs in my house every day making ghosts. And I sent them to a friend of mine because I thought I had a pile of them. I thought, make a nice book. And so I sent them to my friend, and he wrote a poem for every one of them. And so then we printed a book. So he's been going around reading his poems. For a while, it was just, it kept, there's this thing where sometimes you get on a series, right? And it keeps engaging you. As long as it keeps engaging you, you keep going. If it becomes boring or repetitive, you stop. I think someone else is here. Is he just talking to the same people? I don't know. So anyway, there's a pile of these guys. I don't know how many of them you want me to go through. And it was interesting because I was raised with no religion, and I don't really think in terms of afterlife and stuff like that. So to me, like if there's anything left over of you, it's kind of like a little whiff of your spirit, but it's not really a personality. But my friend that wrote the poems had a different kind of ghost, so we have 2 kinds of ghosts in a way. So then there are all these worlds. Look at them all. There are a bunch up there too. I started doing ones with maps first. I started doing them on beach balls, and then I found that if you put enough paper mache on, but after that the beach ball collapsed inside, and then I discovered exercise balls, and they seem to hold their shape. So I've been using exercise balls to do that. I do a lot of things. That's the thing. We made these boxes for these books, right? So it's sort of hard to get it out, but what you can do is open up the front and change the page of the book and then put it down. So it's sort of like a picture on the wall, but you can change it. It's really hard to do it. So you can combine. It doesn't have to be the next one even. You can combine different ways. These guys spin. This is nice when it's glowing. This one. Yeah, these are all, and this is just really, I'm really just experimenting, trying to learn what I can do with it. I don't know anything. I don't know if it'll eat through the paper, and I don't know if it'll keep rusting. So I'm kind of watching it partly too. But I find it really beautiful, frankly. And I was trying different things, like, maybe putting less of this stuff on one part of it to see what that would happen there, and puddling it up in some places, the activator. So I'm just trying a bunch of different things to see what it'll do, because it's a new material to me. And I think I begin to see, like, I can almost see I begin to find these ghosts in this one, like in these two, so maybe I'll begin to see images in them too. This reminds me of some kind of weird face. That's enough stuff, isn't it? Is it? Oh.
I'm David Ellis, and I am a potter. I'm here in the old Mercer Grange building in Mercer, Maine. And I've been doing pottery since I was a kid in school, continuously, and I've studied in a whole bunch of different places. I make my own work and sell it, and I also give classes here. When I was in high school, a friend of mine was taking a pottery class, and I went with her after school for her to practice, and they started teaching me how to do it, and that just sort of hooked me. For me, I like the process. It's a very long, determined process, and a lot of people, they need like instant gratification on something, but this, there's the process of actually forming the piece and firing it once and glazing it, firing again, and sort of at any moment it can be really good or really bad. There's a lot of things that happen that maybe the piece doesn't turn out exactly the way I had it in my head, so I'm not happy with it, but other people look at it and they're happy with it. So, and it's all a matter of trying to execute what's in your head, which all art is about that. So I typically make functional pieces, bowls and mugs and plates, and I sort of like the feeling that my work is out there in the world and it's being used. It's not just an object sitting on a shelf to be looked at. And around here in Maine, there's a lot of people who grow a lot of vegetables out in their gardens, and I like the idea that they've got something handmade that they're eating from, and maybe it brings a little beauty to their morning coffee. And I enjoy making, jars and urns that, people do use them for candy or money or a stash or whatever, but they're not necessarily something that you use on a daily basis. Sometimes I keep things around here and look at them for a while, but really, part of, if you want to continue doing this, you have to sell things, because you've got the next thing you're excited about and you're going to make, and the next group of things that are going to come out of the kiln. I know that I've actually seen some of my work out in the world, and I like the idea that it's out there floating around. It'll be out there longer than I am. I hope so. I guess I like earth and organic and gardens, and I like things to be pretty simple and not embellished a huge amount, and the colors I use are all earth colors, and I guess that's it. It is something that's pretty firmly based. It's not, floating in the air, sort of. A lot of people, have sort of serious days and are using the other part of their brain, and they need a creative outlet. And people really like the vibe of the building and coming out to Mercer. And I keep the classes very small so that they're really, any question they have, it's answered. Any direction they want to go into, I help them, achieve that goal. And people really like it. I used to do, in a different place, some more experimental sort of firing methods, and I'm building a Japanese raku kiln here that I'll be excited about, and experimenting with that again, and thinking about, those glazes are so cool. And when you're talking about ceramics, it's sort of difficult to escape Japan and their influence. And they have a really amazing history, and China does as well. So I guess I take inspiration from them. It's such a big, long process that, that you could lose yourself just, I buy my clay and it's been purified and processed. But here in this area, there is clay that you could dig up and clean it, and it's like that's something unto itself. Glazes, you can really experiment a lot with chemicals. I used to work with a woman who, her background was she was a chemist, and so she was really into formulating glazes. And I have to make selections on what part of it I'm exploring, and so people might not realize just how complicated every portion of this is.
Hi, I'm Kevin James. I'm an artist. I live in Smithfield here on North Pond. And today participating in our 10th annual World's Open Studio Art Tour. So we'll take you through my workspace and show you what it is I do. I use this camper for a mosquito-proof place to paint. And my workspace out here, which I've set up to display work for this open studio tour. As you see, I mostly paint. I make wooden sculptures like this goat that holds my sign, and I just think they're interesting to watch. The way they climb on everything. You know, actually, this is a sheep over here, but yeah, the goat. I'm not sure. It's just one of those animals that I think are visually interesting. You know, work primarily in oils. I've been painting since the mid-70s. I feel I came to art kind of late. I was in my mid-20s at that point, and finally found my purpose, if it were. And this is my work. Well, it's my work's all nature-based primarily. You know, I feel more inspired to paint than I do in the basement, windowless basement of my house. You know, so water and stone and sky, elemental stuff is my inspiration. The wildlife, moving water. You know, I paint here in Maine, and I spent a good amount of time in 2008 in Ireland, where I'd visited, you know, a few times before. So some of these images are from my time living in Galway, Ireland. But yeah, it's nature. It's I can say the elements. It's where I draw most of my inspiration from. Yeah, I mean, I love to live. I've spent half my life living on the ocean, and now I live on a lake, and so yeah, and water is one of the most interesting things to paint. It's got it acts as both mirror and window, because you can see down into the water, and it reflects sky and clouds and so forth above. It's a fascinating subject, and when it's moving, of course, it's all that play of light that happens. So yeah, it's the comment on current situation with child detention. I wanted to use my art to make a statement. I'm going to put that on social media when it's finished, and encourage people to use it, copyright free, make posters, flyers, banners for rallies or whatever. It's an issue that, you know, a lot of people are ignoring and being, you know, complacent about. And I think it's the question that painting asks, like, what if they look like this, is something that everybody that's not already outraged about that situation should ask themselves, and empathize, you know, with people who don't look like us. So yeah, I make some political, social commentary occasionally, and that's my most recent. You know, art events like this are a way to address the disconnect that goes on between people with each other. It's one more thing, like music, to connect people, to guide people to a point where they see other people as similar to them rather than different from them. And to open my studio every year, and I will do this for the rest of the summer. This will be open periodically. It's like to kind of demystify the process of making art, so people can relate to it and relate. You know, and I can establish some sort of relationship with people that I didn't know before with this connection of the artwork, where they come to a broader understanding of art and find it more accessible than just seen in a gallery space or commercial space of some sort. So, I just try to be part of the world, part of my community here, and engage, like I say, with the communities in which I travel. The art community and in the place where I live, and that's it. Just be out there, meet people,